All right. Got a little bit of food here to eat quickly. And then we can hop into implementation. Yeah. Oh, this takes forever to load. Opening up my master spreadsheet to see what skills I have to work on. Obviously, there's a lot. This really does take forever to load. All right, yeah. I think I'll work on the explosive charge ability. It's going to be rough and a bit more involved, but I think it makes sense for me to do that one. So I'm going to quickly finish my food, and we'll hop into implementing the ability. The reason why I think it's interesting is because it's a heavily debuff-based ability, and I did recently implement the debuffs, so it's kind of taking that system a little bit further. Yeah. Explosive strike. I kind of want to call it something more clever. It's fine for now. Explosive strike. Coltrane DMing me about some history stuff. Always good to see. Resident channel historian. Okay, so this ability is a little bit weird. I think I'll leave it with a damage mod of 1. I think that makes sense. Mana cost, it being like 15 with an increase of 5 or something like that's fine. Cast range is irrelevant. Rapid fire should be 1. Places and explosive charge on the target. What should the mods be? As just a side note, I can have a extra, or what's it? Increased maximum charges. This isn't necessarily a good thing, so that's why I'm putting it down here, because I don't think I want this to be one of the base mods. Okay, giving this an ignite chance is actually nice. I think it makes a lot of sense for this ability. Does a shorter fuse make sense? Not really. I'm going to implement the ability first before figuring out the mods, because this is actually going to be rough. This is technically a melee skill. SCR, explosive strike. Ooh. Good. Okay. So right now the mod shouldn't do anything, which is totally fine. This is a stand-based ability, right? Yeah. Which I realized this is messed up. Okay. So skill ID here is 15, 16. The hitbox should be explosive strike. Damage ratio is 1, cooldown is 20, this is all fine. So what's interesting about this is this technically I guess it will pass damage in, but technically that damage doesn't do a whole lot. Yeah. So I do need to make the hitbox, which I think can be the same base hitbox as quick strike. OBJ explosive strike. The difference here is this doesn't do damage. I technically need to add in a new debuff. Beautiful. Let's just call it an X charge. equals 0. Oh, and then I need x duration equals 0. Why do I make these initialized to 1? Oh, because I'm weird about it, yeah. Probably doesn't need to be a 1, but I'll make it a 1. Yeah. So I do need a counter thing, which is if x duration is greater than or equal to 0, then x duration minus 1. Yeah, so this would be if x duration equals 0 and x charge is greater than 0, then fire dam equals base dam times x charge. And then we go SCR enemy damage. As well as, then we go x charge equals 0. I don't need to toggle frozen. Technically I need to do this. And then I can do this. Then the other thing I need to do is if EX charge equals 5, then same thing. This in theory could be a mod. Blows up at max. If EX charge equals 1, then image index equals six. So it would be 5 then? Because it does start on 0? Yeah. This is 5. Oh, you know what? Let's do it this way. It's greater than 0, then image index equals ex charge plus 4. There we go. So theoretically, the functionality is there. I do need to give this... Ooh, I shouldn't do it this way, should I? What I should do is go with host ID, run scr damage, right? Because what this means is on the actual enemy object, it will check the current object's damage numbers and run all of this. This factors in leech and everything else and all that good stuff. Perfect, yes. So this is what I want to do. Okay. I know I'm not talking crazy, or I'm not talking that much through this ability, but it's because I'm trying to sort of focus in and get this implemented as quickly as possible, because my skills have been taking way too long when I explain them all the way through. So unfortunately, some of the banter will have to be cut back just so that I can get stuff done. Yes. So this should work. So I do pass in base damage and fire damage. Right, technically I now need to I can just hitbox any. Yeah, hitbox any. Because now this kind of is a hitbox. So that should rule out any scenarios where it would break while trying to run the damage script. And then I would, or I should make the actual hitbox for, yeah. So this should be obj explosive strike. Oh, I do already have an explosive strike object. My B. Alright, so first off, let's give this the smaller hitbox. That's all fine. That's fine, and I already removed the damage script from it. Okay. So now what I want it to do is on hit, I want it to apply this debuff. So, instance place, or instance meeting, instance place. Y PAR enemy PAR enemy. There we go. And then what am I doing with this? What I'm doing with this is I'm running the debuff code. Which technically I think the best example of it is actually on damage. Yes. So that's for the stun debuff, but that should be good enough for me to pull this. Go back to this. With parent enemy. Okay, so this looks for buff ID. What should I call this buff ID? I guess I should call it let's open up the damage and see what the other ones are. Let's see. So Ignite is an ID of 1, Chills is 2, Freeze is 4, Stuns is 5. So making the 6 wouldn't actually be that crazy. In fact, that should fit the naming convention. So let's make this 6. Create the debuff. Yep, that's fine. Don't do this. What I do want you to do is set EX charge equal to 1 and set EX duration equal to EX duration. Excuse me. And this doesn't need to do anything there. Cool. Then, if they're already hit, then take EX duration, add EX duration, and take EX charge and add 1. So I need to set the duration. Beautiful. Technically, I'm missing a step to make this whole ability work, but this should work with my current implementation and sort of show the idea, and then I can add the AoE to it. And in fact, I could technically make that a mod, and that might be a better way to do it. Yeah. So let's go to my library and add that in. AoE. Okay, so this creates the hitbox. What I need to set on it is EX duration equals let's set this equal to a second. So is there any reason why this wouldn't work in the current implementation? It has a hitbox, it draws it, the hitbox applies the debuff creates the visual effect. If the duration hits 0 or the number of charges hits 5, then it blows up and it deals the damage. I just don't have an icon for the ability. Okay. Beautiful. Sure. And then let's create. Take the debug object, or the debug dropped skill, and make it equal to this ability. And then we can try it out. So now I can finally kind of explain this. So the ability should work is you use the move, it creates the hitbox, anything that gets hit by it gets an explosive charge. After a second, the charge blows up and it deals damage. These stack up to 5. Each stack increases the fuse, and each stack adds more damage to it. And then if you hit 5 charges, it just insta blows up, regardless of the duration. So when you hit the max number, it just goes boom. It doesn't have an EX duration. Oh, because it's trying to read the zombies' duration. Fair enough. This should be other.ex duration. Oh, it's gonna break there too. Other.ex duration. So it's not quite doing what it's supposed to do. Let's see why this is. Let's investigate. Oh. I actually know a big reason why. I need to add in the damage checks that there normally are, which is this and... let's see. So I need to do this. And then these two things need to be done. So now when I hit them, they'll see me. It'll add them to the hit list. The hit list should work here. The other may not. I may need to move the other. So this is within the with parent enemy statement, and I believe that this is not within that. No, this is. So that's fine. This isn't. So I have to do that. Yeah, so this should work. Why they weren't taking damage, I'm not sure. But I'm going to solve the... make sure that's registering the debuff correctly, and then I'll problem solve the damage issue. Whoa! Okay. I shouldn't be being weird. I should do literally the same checks that I would do for the damage. And then... yes. Okay. Because I think my logic's getting... It gave the debuff to everything when it shouldn't, and I believe it's because that's the difference between instance place and place meeting. When using parent objects and stuff like that, I need to actually pick up the ability, huh? Ugh. Okay, cool. So it's working properly. They do get the charges. However, they don't take damage. Beautiful. So I'm pretty sure the reason this happens, they get the debuff. This passes on base damage and fire damage. Does this pass on base damage? This does not pass them on. So that's why they're not doing damage. So, go to here. This needs to pass on base damage equals base damage. And technically, the fire can convert once it gets into the other thing. And then this, because of how I want the charges to work, this should add per charge. And then technically, if I go up to the script, I don't actually need that. Okay. Yeah. Here's what this works out is because it runs the damage script, if there's an added fire damage mod or an increased fire damage mod, it will still apply to the ability. Yeah. So if I put in any sort of adding in the fire damage, that would be a redundant effect. Okay. That's not important for you guys, that's just me trying to keep track of how my stats work. Whoops. Fair enough. So this should work. Keyword there being should. Let's see. And then it just kills it because it's more than enough damage, yeah. Yep. And after a second it does pop on its own. So like 2 of these should do it. Okay, so the basic functionality is there. It gets these charges after the fuse time goes, it blows up, and they take damage. Perfect. So, what I want to add in is I want to add in the AoE stuff, which I think I am going to make a mod. So, within both of these, I need to put in a check for if AoE equals 0, then it just does this. Oh, whoops. Shift tab there when I wanted to tab. Right. So I can just copy this and say, yeah. Beautiful. But if AoE is equal to 1, then it needs to do AoE stuff. And that's where this gets to be a lot more complicated. Let's just rip off the Fireball AoE. I can't do that. Because what I want is I want the AoE to scale based on the number of charges. So let's go ahead and duplicate this and then edit it. Let's see. I go 16, 32, 48, 64, and 1 more. So it'd just be this plus 16, which is 80. Beautiful. 16 by 16 grid. Oh. I'm dumb. Okay, okay. Let's increase it by just another 8, and that should work. I'm bad. Let's increase it by another 8. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be very clunky. Or, not very clunky. It's going to be pretty clunky. But it'll function the way that I want it to function. And that's what's important. Rename SPR explosive. No, let's just go EX charge AOE. I could just make this thing a normal hitbox, right? Yeah, I totally can. So let's go duplicate, make this. Ooh. Explosive charge AoE. It can have the damage, that's fine. Duration is fine. Duration being 15 is fine, image speed is fine. Yes. So actually, I'm going to do this ability a bit different than I thought I was going to. That I think this will work better as a whole. So if I go to the actual thing that hits, I don't technically actually need this. Or I don't need this. Or do I? This is fine. It's here that I need to change it. In that here, right, I have if AoE equals 0 or if AoE equals 1, and it does all this stuff. Rather than doing the damage script, right, I want this to be effectively the same thing, but what it does is rather than just doing the damage, instance create layer XY instances. So rather than just doing the damage on the target, what it is going to do is it's going to create the explosive charge hitbox, which doesn't exist. Because I didn't rename it. And then what it does is it sets the fire charge, or it sets the fire damage. And I don't think it needs to pass anything else into it. Yeah. Oh, and it needs to pass in image index is equal to ex charge, or other.ex charge. So in theory, I should just do it this way up here as well. but have it be that if AoE equals 0, then the image index always equals 0, so it's just a really small AoE. If you have the AoE mod, then it scales per charge. And I have a syntax error because I'm bad? Yeah. Okay. So let's see if this completely breaks or not. It's going to break because AoE isn't set. Aww. Oh, now I don't need this hitbox any. What I do need, though, is AoE. So that was why I did that, is because now I don't need to run the hitbox initialization on this, because it'll always create that small hitbox. Because otherwise it basically doesn't matter. When I get visuals in, it'll be nice as well. Like, once I update those sprites to actually be very visual and very pretty. Layer instances doesn't exist? That's correct. It should be instances. Might be. Should probably just move that object to be, like, in a more convenient place, because it would take me 2 seconds to do that. Oh, okay. So, origin point's misset. It's totally misset. Okay. Well, that's fine. So it's drawing it on the wrong location then. Why? This should draw it on top of them. I mean... This technically shouldn't change anything. Oh no! No, this will, and this is better. Because the debuff is not located at their origin point, it's located above them. So I do want to take the host ID's origin point. Oh, again, I wanted to move the object and then didn't. Fair enough. Okay, it's drawing it on top of me for some reason. The host ID shouldn't be my characters. It's still damaging them, though. If I'm close enough? That is super weird. Why is this so broken? Oh. Doesn't happen there. It happens here. Okay, so if for some reason this needs to be other.id, which it shouldn't, yes, it shouldn't, because I know this is working, because when I hit them, they only gain one charge, even if the hitbox stays on them for a while. They don't gain multiple charges. So that this is adding in the ID of the enemy object into the hit list, as it should be doing. Which means, when I reference ID here, this should refer to the enemy's ID. So on the enemy, on their debuff list, it should add in the ID as the host ID. So then, on the debuff object itself, when I try to create this hitbox, I'm drawing it on host ID. Oh, I know exactly what's wrong. Or I'm pretty sure I know what's wrong. Yeah. I'm just dumb. Because I copied it off of the other object. This hitbox was overwriting its own X and Y coordinates. Was something I shouldn't have. We're good. That totally makes sense. That was me being a little bit fast and a little bit careless. I didn't move this object still, because I'm bad. So it's weird that it's hitting as far as it is, because it shouldn't be. Oh, I probably have the collision box set to something big rather than checking the frame. Yeah. So, yeah. I keep not moving that object. So this should actually work now. Yep. So it blows up and it only hits the things that it hits. The reason why we can't see the explosion is drawing it underneath them. So, that's actually a very easy change. So not the sprite. Rather than drawing it on the instances layer, draw it on the top layer. Okay, so now I need to turn on AoE as a potential mod. This is AoE, which by default is 0. So this makes it a binary toggle. Then we need to pass in self.aoe equals AoE. This passes it into the hitbox, which then needs to get passed into the actual explosion. Right? Okay, it needs to get passed into the buff. And then on the actual buff, that's where the magic happens. Beautiful. And then need to go to the library, go 1. So now, explosion size increases with charges. And we have 1 turned on. Okay, so we can roll this mod guaranteed every time because it's the first mod. It's the only mod that we can roll, and we can see if the AoE works. I don't need to set it here because it's already been set. We're just adding the damage and the duration to it. Yeah, cool. Still haven't moved the object because I'm horrible. It didn't increase the size like it should. What? Oh, yeah. That's why. Because I need to take all of this, copy it into here, but I should only do that after it actually works. Creates it, then sets the image index. So this should be 1. Yeah. And then Okay, this should work. This might not have been the most efficient way, but this was the quick and simple way. Which is classic me. Let's see this. Oh, well, of course, that's only going to be 1. So let's do 3. It's not actually drawing it bigger. Why the hell not? Each charge starts as 0. But that gets overwritten when it actually makes it. Sorry. When it actually makes it. Oh, I didn't mod it. Might be. I do actually have to mod the ability. There we go. So 5 should be insane. Okay. It breaks at 5 for some reason. Okay. Why does it break so hard at 5? Oh, because I didn't actually set it. Okay, fair enough. Because I was waiting, yeah, to see what was up with that. Okay. Okay. I do need to mod it. So when it hits 5 charges, it should auto-pop. It does, but it pops for the wrong AoE size. Am I wrong? I don't have to offset it by 0? Or by 1? Or am I actually 1 sprite short? Did I do my math wrong? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually have 6 frames. Even though I only actually need 5, because this is 1 charge, 2 charge, 3 charge, 4 charge, 5 charges. So I don't actually need this final frame. Fair enough. But that's fine. I can leave it in for now. So what happens is if AoE is 0, then it sets the charge. It should do it equal to 0. And then if AoE is on, then it sets it equal to the number of charges. Which, arguably, that's why I did this as 1. No, okay, this should be 1. That's fine. So then I go to here, and it's 1 minus the number of charges. So if there's 1 charge, it'll be image index 0, which is perfectly fine. And if it's 5, it'll be image index 4. Oh, it'll be negative. Whoops. There's my problem. That totally makes sense. Absolutely checks out. 100%. It's just me being bad at math. Yeah, so those should be overlapping AoEs. Then, if I actually hit 5 times, yeah, they just pop. Yeah, perfect. It totally works. Might be a little on the broken side, but that's fine. That's awesome. That's like exactly how I want it to work. Beautiful. Okay. So now I need to add in 3 more mods because I have AoE. I definitely want to add an Ignite, which is simple enough. All I really have to do is just make the second mod Ignite. Then I just need to pass the Ignite in. And then I need to go to, this is on the hitbox. I think I need to pass it one place further. I need to pass it into the actual debuff. Oh, I need to pass it 2 levels further. Yeah. Ignite and Ignite. And this passes it into the buff object, which then just needs to pass it into the actual hitbox. And now let me make sure that it's that the keyword I used for the variable is in fact ignite, and not like ignites or something. It is in fact just ignite. Okay. So now it should be able to ignite, which is based on a percentage of the amount of fire damage that's dealt. This only deals fire damage, so it should be like 10% or 20% or something like that. Oh, I didn't mod the ability. 50-50 chance of getting the ignite without the AoE. Okay. Oh, you can't really see because it doesn't do that much damage. Ooh, it's doing more damage than it should, it looks like. It's going to be harder to see this unless I give them a lot of health. So I'm going to do that. Let's try that again. Igniting them should give them the debuff. So it looks like it's not working. If ignite equals 1, then it adds burning damage and duration to the debuff. And then... yeah, it finds the debuff, it adds... or it makes the debuff, tells it that it should do ignite stuff, adds the damage and the duration to it and all that stuff. So it's burn equal to 1. Then if we look at the actual debuff, if burn is equal to 1, then it should make it, draw an icon that looks like that. And then, with the host, it should run burning damage, which is a script. Yes, that should work. That's unnecessary. I just need to do that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it still should have worked, though. Nice. Got the ignite with the air. So again, just gonna give them a whole bunch of health. They don't get the little burning icon. That's a problem. Yeah, whoops. I wasn't supposed to base it off that ability. That's my view. There we go. But even then, this one will technically break. I need to put the if this is a bug on a different ability, but it's a bug I need to fix nonetheless. Okay. So for some reason the ignite isn't happening. So let's see. That's why. Because other... No, because it passes an AoE, so it should pass an ignite. And... the debuff then... Oh, that's why. Because I'm dumb. Needs to happen here as well. but actually it should have worked. No, it shouldn't have. We're good. That actually makes sense. Because I never got up to the 5 charges. So here's where this ability is going to be very, very good, because the ignites will stack. Based on the explosions. Burning damage was not set. Fair enough. Need to initialize it as 0. That's a different issue, and that just makes sense. I need to mod it. So the ignites, A, should happen, and B, they should stack based on how many AoEs the target's hit by. Yeah, so fair enough. So if I hit a pack with a whole bunch, the ignites will actually add up in a pretty gnarly way. Okay, so the AoE just added up there. And shotgun them. So let's do it. Let's try it with like 2 charges. It's kind of hard to have it not just be broken and not just kill him. That's gonna just kill him. Obviously, if I turn the difficulty up, they do like an insane amount of damage. So I'm gonna make the problem worse because I want them to have like a huge health pool to sort of see the stacking ignite and how that feels. It still just kills him. Is the math just being insane? They don't get too much more health per difficulty. Yeah, that works as intended. Okay. So, numbers-wise, it gets a little bit finicky, but what I'll probably end up doing when I finally do the big balance pass is I'll take most of the fire abilities, or at least the ones that can ignite, tone down their base damage a little bit, and tone up how effective ignite is, and then it'll be very noticeable. Okay, so I need at least 2 more mods for this ability, otherwise it breaks the save file. And it should just have 2 more in general. So what are some other mods that kind of make sense? I considered making the blowing up at 5 charges a mod. I like it because it is kind of a mechanics thing. that speeds up how the ability works a lot. It'd kind of like be the equivalent of decreased duration in Path of Exile for the similar ability, but it's a little cleaner and is a feel-good mod. Yeah, let's do that. Instantly explodes at max charges. Instantly explodes at max charges. Okay. So we need to change a couple things to make this work. I guess we'll add in the mod, which is I guess we'll just call it explodes. Yeah, so obviously we need to pass in self.explodes equals explodes. And this goes to the hitbox, which is there. Yes. So there's a couple things we need to do. So first, I do need to pass in explodes. And then, this is important, and buff I dot ex charge is less than 5. So now it won't blow up automatically, and it'll only add to the charges if it doesn't already have 5. And that won't reset the duration or anything either. And then we can go to now the debuff. And so here is where the initial stuff is totally fine. And then this is only true if explodes is also true. So otherwise it'll just wait for the duration to tick down. So we can test this in both forms. I didn't turn on the mod, so we can't. So let's turn the mod on, and while we're at it, now that I actually have remembered, let's move this to be in a much better location. Okay, so let's just test it on its own. So now, when it hits 5, it should just stop, and you should have to wait for the duration, which you do. The animation still gets weird. That's annoying. I think it works on every level up to 4. No, now the animation's just broken again. Why? Why does the animation keep breaking? I mean, it seems like it knows how big the hitbox should be. It's just not drawing the bigger hitbox. That's weird. But I can at least test the blow up at max charges mod, which was the main change that I did. And then I can fix the animation when I look at it. Oh. Oh. So now, when they hit 5, it should instantly blow up. Yeah, and it does. So why does the animation break? The animation doesn't break. I'm bad. That's a mod, and it was working properly after I modded it. Okay, we're good. We're good. That's actually working completely as intended. I forgot I made that a mod. Fair enough. Okay, so we need one more mod for this ability. Alright, I'm gonna BRB real quick to use the restroom, but I have a thought on this. On how I want to actually do this ability, and it would involve implementing a system that would theoretically be useful for other abilities too. So I'm going to BRB, and we'll figure this out. Oh, all right. So here's the question. Right now, how this ability works, if you were watching before the quick break, it draws this small hitbox, and anything that gets hit by that gets the charges. That works, and I'm totally fine with that if it, in the end, that's what I decide is fine, right? Like, I don't think there's anything fundamentally necessarily wrong with that. But in theory, it would kind of be better if it only hits one target. That kind of fits how the ability is supposed to work better, where you're placing these explosives on the thing and then it blows up. It's kind of weird to be able to like hit multiple things. Like, it's fine, but I think it would make more sense if you could just hit the one. So, in theory, I should change this from rather than being a hitbox mechanic, I should add in, and I don't have this for any other ability, so it would open doors for some design, which is why I'm considering this, add in a kind of like a hit scan type thing, where when you click at the location, it sees if the mouse position is on top of an enemy, and if so, then it applies all of these effects that that hitbox would, but just on the one enemy that's on the mouse click. And I can check literally pixel perfect, and no two enemy objects should be occupying the same pixel ever. So it should work. And I kinda like that. Now I need like a cast range and all this other bullshit, but I can make that work. And what's nice about that is if I do it that way, again, it opens the door for other abilities if I want very specifically single target abilities, which I think is interesting design space to play around with. And then I could have a mod that does something with AoE, right? I can make us that way. Oh, the final mod is it hits it, and then like, you know, maybe it does spawn a hitbox on that target in a circle and applies multiple charges or whatever. Or I can have it be an increased range or something. So it goes from being like a close melee, put it on, to like a farther range you can put it on. So probably do that. Increased range. So I would have to do this totally differently. So rather than creating this hitbox, what I would have to do is a lot of math. What it would be is you would have to check for instance, place, mouse X, mouse Y, PAR enemy. And then this would be with that enemy object. And what it would do here, all this code that I did, rather than deleting it, I'm just gonna comment block it out. Take all of this and move it into here. And then what would happen is the stuff that normally happens on the hitbox, instead, this would happen with that enemy. Right? So now what should happen is when it tries to do this ability, it checks all this, and technically it'll be a little bit redundant, but it's important. So not only do you have to have the mana, but also there has to be an enemy on your cursor. And then if all of that's true, with that enemy, it will set the debuff to what it should be. And all that stuff. And now, rather than having this be other and all that stuff, this can just be... This would be the base damage. The EX duration? Oh, yes. So normally this is 60. So this would be plus 60 instead of 60. Then we have AoE ignites and explodes, which I can just ditch the other tags, because these are the mods. Scene equal to 1 is totally fine. Because this is on the parent enemy object. Yes, it is. The hit list thing is now unnecessary. And if all that's true, then it'll do all that crap. Okay, so this technically is going to have infinite range. So I'll have to give it a range, but I just want to test functionality. Which also, hitting that Balmer peak. No idea if that came in properly on the mic or not. Okay, so let's test this out. So, I'm just changing the base functionality of the ability, so I don't need to mod it out. So this should apply to any enemy that I click on. Yep, and it does. Right, and yeah. Yeah. So it totally works. And I can use this for any sort of targeted on-click ability, which is awesome. And it shouldn't eat my stamina it's not eating my stamina right now because I'm not able to cast the ability. If I am, then it does and it eats my stamina, which is perfect. Cool. So this works, but now I want to give it a cast range. And there's several clever ways that I can do this. What's the way that I like best? I think what I want to do is let me copy. This doesn't have a cast range, right? Yeah. What does have a cast range are all of these. Well, most of these. So let's copy the cast range code, although this is going to be a very different way to do cast range. So, diff-x and diff-y are in fact, this is calculating the difference between the character and the mouse object. So then, I don't need any of this. All I need to do is calculate the cast range. And this is... So this isn't cast range. What this calculation is calculating the literal pixel distance between the mouse object and the player object. Right? So diff-x is the difference between the x values. Diff-y is the difference between the y values of the character object and the mouse object. Then it squares them, adds them together, and square roots them to calculate the line, the distance between them. So this should be literally just the distance. So whatever this value is now, if I want to set a cast range, I would just have it check. Let's go var max range. Max range equals, let's say, 200. And then we can check if cast range, so the actual distance is less than or equal to the max range. And then we do all the other checks. So now it should only do it if they're close enough. And 200 is pretty far. It's 200 pixel distance. And the game runs in, what is it, 540 by... No. Yeah, 540 by something? Oh, I didn't grab the ability. Here, I'll go up to the top area. It's technically a shorter distance. So, if it's too far away... Okay, it's working. What if I do something that's like edge of the screen? Yeah. So that's too far away, too far away, too far away, too far away. This guy too far away? That guy's too far away. That's 200. That's in range. So it works. So... what I need to do now is so I don't want the starting range to be 200. I do want this to be very, very, very close. So let's make it 50. And then we multiply this by 1 plus range. And range will be the fourth mod. The fourth and final mod. So this is range. No. This is just range. Oh, that's range. So if we look at range, so now it'll be close or double the distance. So I've I've drastically depowered the ability, but I kind of wanted to. So now it doesn't hit multiple targets. It only will hit one target. And even if you have the increased range, it'll still only hit one target. So getting the AoEs to stack and all that is far less clean and far less broken, which is very good. In theory, and I don't think I'm going to actually implement... Well, maybe I will. In theory, they should chain reaction. So if something has 1 charge and something has 5 charges, and the 5 charge thing blows up and it one-shots the enemy that has 1 charge, that 1 charge on it should also blow up. And I don't necessarily think that should be a mod. That just should happen, just period. This is if the host ID exists, and this is an else. Okay, so here's what I could do. So if the host ID doesn't exist, then we can go if ex charge is equal to 0, then it just kills itself. If ex charge is greater than 0, then I want you to do this and blow up. So now they will chain reaction. The reason why I want this is I don't want that to be wasted damage. In that, in most circumstances, if like a 5-charge thing blows up and hits a bunch of 1-charge things and it one-shots those 1-charge things, odds are that extra 1 charge or 2 charge of damage in a small AoE isn't really gonna hit anything impactful, and that big initial explosion is going to matter way more. But let's say we flip it around. Let's say you don't have the blow up on 5 charges mod, right? So you give a whole bunch of stuff 5 charges, and they're all very, very low on HP, and then something in the middle has 1 charge on it, so it has less duration, so that blows up first and finishes off all those bigger things, and let's say there's even more enemies around them, then they won't blow up, and that's sad. Right? Whereas this way now, they will blow up, and they will hit the things past that for the big amounts of damage, and the damage will overlap, and all that good stuff. Now, how do you get multiple charges on a whole bunch of crap? Well, that's actually not easy. Because of the way that the ability works now, it's effectively single target only. But that's something that can be changed later and may be changed later. Which is why, actually, I'm not going to delete this. Or I'm not going to delete this. What I'll probably end up doing is switching out this hitbox for a circle hitbox and adding that in as a potential mod. So let's make a note of that. So I did put in blow up at max here. I should turn on all 4 mods. So increase maximum charges is a possible mod. Another one is AoE charge placement. So this might be a mechanical addition in the future, but also I don't want explosive charges to only apply to this ability. So that is really how you would add more. And I can do weird shit too. Like let's go decrementing chain AoE. So let's say I want to get really weird with it. I can make it so that way when this thing blows up, when the charges blow up, anything that hits inherits charges, but -1. So let's say you get 5 charges on it, it blows up, everything it hits gets 4 charges on it. And those blow up, and then everything they hit get 3 charges on them. And it decreases down. Like, I can do some really interesting stuff with explosive charges. And so depending on how I want to do other abilities or add mods to this ability, I can do some really interesting things. So I'm glad I implemented this the way that I did. I like that it's single target now. Hey, Spheros, welcome. Take it you just wrapped up. So yeah, we can do it this way. I just realized, I think if I have this muted, then you can't hear the Streamlabs notification. So I fixed that. But so I think it's good that I made this single target, and I can have it do other stuff later. The one last piece of polish for this ability that I think is actually really important is the targeting. For some reason, the targeting icon doesn't show up when you hold down the button. Or does it? Let me see. And I believe it's because of how the cast range variable works, so I may need to change that around. But let's see. Because in theory, rapid... Oh, does rapid not show cast range? That might be the problem. I do want this to be a rapid ability, though, technically. Let's see. Not sprites. Scripts. Yeah, use draw. This is the targeting. It should draw. Skill ID is not equal to 0. That's fine. This is the problem. Max range. Because for a lot of these, max range is 0. Okay, so that's really easy, actually. What I would do here is I would change this to 50. So now, not only should it, have the target, but also if I get out of range, it'll show. So that's where I will place the charges if anything gets in range. And it will just auto-place it. Ooh. Oh, my mouse literally needs to be on top of it? Ooh, that's a problem. Host ID is gone. That's probably the code that I just changed on the debuff, which isn't on these tabs. Yes, it's this else that I somehow broke. Oh, I don't need to do that. I can just place this down here. And in theory, that should fix that error. But that's not what the actual problem is. The actual problem is how the ability works is the mouse has to be on it. which I don't want. So I need to do line of sight? Or something like the line of sight code to determine whether or not it's within 50 units of me? I would need a collision line. I don't care about the angle. I don't care about the angle. Collision line. So let's call this sight range. And let's change this here. This is cast range. And not with obj char, but with parent enemy, because this is on the character object. And maybe I shouldn't call it scene. Scene's fine, I guess. So then we take these collision lines. So we have this whole check. I don't think I need any of this. What I need oh, this is super weird. Hold on. So this will target the enemy that's closest to me between me and the cursor. That's fine. That works. Theoretically, if I click on the one further back that's still within range, I would want it to hit that enemy and not the one in front. So collision line technically isn't what I want. I think I'm thinking about this wrong. My initial check is almost correct. In that, what my initial check is this, which is it's just seeing if my mouse is on top of the enemy. And that works until we get past the max range. So what I want is I want this to be... okay. What I want is I want to go if diff x, so this is the difference between the absolute difference between the cursor and my player, if that is greater than the max range, then I want to set okay, this still isn't going to work. Okay. What I was thinking here is if I make it so that way, if the X and Y of the mouse are ever more, or past the, like, 50 pixel, or past the range mark, then we just set it equal to the max range. And then we take those coordinates and we check to see if there's an enemy on those coordinates. And that would work. But that has the secondary problem now. If you're not pixel perfect with your clicking, you'll miss. So I do want to do line of sight. Okay. All I need is if the cast range is greater than the max range, then we use line of sight. So actually, let me get rid of this because I was dumb and deleted my line of sight code. This, it should do line of sight if mouse X, or sorry, if the cast range, which is where my mouser is currently greater than the max range. And if we if there isn't an enemy at that location, which would be at this location. So what this is saying is if the mouse cursor is far enough away that it's past the range of the ability, and if at the max range there isn't an enemy, then it does line of sight to find where that is, or to see if there's an enemy at least along the line, and if so, then it'll set, rather than doing this as an if, we go with, and then this would be var, or I can define this up here, var target equals 0. And then what this would do is this would set target equal to the ID of that object. Oh, so this doesn't need to be a with. I can just put if and do this as an other.id. And then same thing, I can do this. So that would save the target. Then the other check, the other condition would be if all of this, but there is an enemy at that max range, and in that case, then very, very simply, target is equal to the one that is at that location. And the final check would just be the same kind of thing, but if cast range is less than the max range. Ooh. Do I not care about this? There's 4 cases, but there should technically be 3 cases, right? Because either way, whether it's within range, whether the cursor's within range or outer range, if there's not an enemy on the cursor, it should just do the line of sight code. So this doesn't matter. If xarc times no, that does matter, because that determines what the position is checking. So then we would need this would be if the cast range is less than or equal to the max range, and there is not an object at that position. Okay, so these do need to be max range. Alright, I think I figured it out. All of these need to be max range, because the cast range is too far. That's the whole point of this. Then, if the cast range is less than the max range, then we do all these same checks, but with cast range. So I guess I should have copied those before and then pasted them, but that's fine. So then this would be, instead, this is cast range. Because cast range is less than max range, so it should be checking the specific point instead. And then I can do it here. This turned out to be way more complicated than I thought, but the reason why I'm fine being way more thorough with this ability is because this means that I can use this kind of targeting system for other abilities, which opens up design space. Then now I don't care about this. Check. I do care about the mana. I don't care about this check now. What I do care about is if target is greater than -1. Then this is with target. Okay, so I'm going to roll top down again. I kind of quickly went through that, and I know that was very, very confusing. So now, how this should work, it sets target equal to -1. It doesn't have a target. The cast range is just the difference, or this is where my mouse is versus where my player is. Then the max range is equal to a value, which it is usually going to be 50, or it'll be double that, whatever. So then it, by default, it has no target. It checks to see if where my mouse is greater than the maximum range. If that distance is greater, then, or if the distance is greater, and there isn't an enemy at the max range at that same angle, then what it does is it looks to see if there is any enemy within the maximum range at that angle. And the first one it finds, that becomes the target. Another circumstance is the same thing, where the mouse is past the maximum range, but the enemy is, or there is an enemy at that maximum range, in which case that's the target. And there's two other circumstances. If I am within range on my mouse, and there is a target at that location, it sets it. If I am at range of my mouse and there isn't a target at that location, it finds the closest one within that range and sets that as the target. Then, to see if it uses the ability, it sees if I have enough stamina and or mana, depending on my modifiers, and that a target exists. That there is an assigned target. If all that's true, then it takes that target, it applies the debuff, gets rid of my stamina/mana, does everything. We did it. Nailed it. 10 out of 10. Technically, I also need to put in the proper fail cases. So if we get all the way down to here and target is equal to -1. Sorry. If target equals -1, as in it didn't get written over because all of those checks failed, then I need to return 3. And then if we go to yes. So this is now if fail equals 3, then this is just the code to put the text on the screen, which is no target. And this is also good because it breaks out of the script. So does it make sense to look for a target first, or does it make sense to check my stamina first? I think it essentially doesn't matter, but arguably I should check if the mana, if I have enough stamina first, and then check if there's a target. Just because it saves a little bit of computation on average, but it kind of doesn't matter. So I'm going to leave it. Okay. So again, that was a lot of logic, that was a lot of new code, but this will allow me to do, I can have a precise targeting system now. So if I want to have an ability only affect a single target, this is how I do it. Now, the question is, will it work? Y-arc is not set? How is Y-arc not set? If we have diff x and diff y, then Y-arc should be set, right? Yeah. Oh, underscore? I bet you they're not underscores on this. They're not. Mm-hmm. Because I named them differently for the enemy objects, just because it was bad. I know I can clean this up and make this a lot more readable. I'm just going for function right now. Cleaning it up will be another time. This might be another one of those nights where I only get one skill done today. But the skill involved implementing features I need in my game anyways. Oh, okay. Yep. No target. I need a text cooldown. How do I do that? Well, we'll see. Oh, it breaks. Why does that break? An index of variable that's not an array? What do you mean? What do you mean those aren't arrays? Alright, this is going to be a little bit weird. I think this needs to be a nested if. And if this isn't the problem, then the problem is in these. And I can do something very weird to fix it within those, but I don't think that's the problem. Because it was definitely, the cast range is greater than the max range. Ooh, and there wasn't a target application, so it probably is these. That should be correct, though. Alright, I'll try it again. This probably didn't fix it. This probably changed basically nothing. I can try to make that true by just clicking directly on an enemy that is within range. I'm seeing if that works. It didn't work. Because that should have been this circumstance and this should have been true. This has gotten so complicated. Alright, I'll just do the quick thing that has like a 20% chance to work. Well, I guess we'll try the two quick things that have like 20% chances to work. Excuse me. This shouldn't work, though. Let's see. Let's see. I'm still doing the same thing. Yeah. And that was out of range, so that would have been greater, and there would not have been an object there, so it would have gone to collision line. Well, I guess either way. Well, if I really want to test it, I should do this. Oh, I can go up here. And then the other thing I'll test is switching it back to an if statement, but ditching that other. Ooh, okay. I mean, it shouldn't quite work that way, but this is breaking on the debuff object. Okay, that's that other code I put in. I can look at that in a second. So this technically fixed it, which is a little weird. But we take that. So I'm guessing what the issue was is even though it's a collision event, it didn't understand what other meant. It was somehow pointing to the wrong object. And that object didn't have the buff initialized. And now it does. So, sure. No, okay. So, technically, I don't want them to keep going. Okay, so what I did there was, I'm sure you noticed you hit up to 5 charges, and then it started to net another stack. Which, okay, actually, okay. So there's several problems with this. So first is, so now it won't do the second stack, but it'll keep trying to target that same one, and it'll keep failing, rather than just trying to target something else it could target. So that gets a little weird. So then I was gonna say, well, screw it, it's fine. If it just like double stacks, whatever. The problem is if it double stacks, you could fill up all the potential possible buff arrays, no matter what size, and like eventually you could lag out or overload it. And like theoretically that would never happen because of the duration and all that stuff, but it's just opening up the door to a potential problem. So I think I just gotta have it be this way and just be like, hey, if you're really brainless about the ability, it's a little bit weird, but just don't use it that way. Like, just play with any amount of thinking about it, and this won't feel bad. Yes. Okay. So, the other bug that we're having is with the changes that I made to the debuff, where it's this. And that's how I can do this. Let's go snap X. This stands for snapshot. Host ID.x. This will be snap y equals host ID.y. So now we can take these and just replace them with these snap values. Wow, there's a whole bunch of them. Technically, I only need them down here, because this is when the host has stopped existing. I technically need to move those a little bit too. They need to go to or it needs to be within the is the host alive check, which, so I'll move it in a second here. Otherwise we'll have literally exactly the same problem. We would just have moved the problem as opposed to fixing it. So, what this should fix is now, when the thing dies, it'll still have the last saved snap X and snap Y value to use down here. So that should fix the debuff issue. So this should have fixed everything that was wrong with the ability that I identified. Should have. Whether or not it actually did, we'll find out, but that should have fixed everything. Alrighty. Okay. That's weird. It's acting strange. Okay, yeah, so it hits the ones in the back if there is a target there. What if there isn't? It should hit the closest one, which it doesn't. It's just giving the wrong error when you don't have enough mana. So that's why it's looking weird. It's because I don't have enough stamina. No. It actually can't find a target, even though it should. Oh, because it's finding it based on the origin, maybe? Why can't I hit this thing? Okay. My too far check is broken, is what it looks like. Weird. The cast range is greater than max range. It should check based on max range. My check is less, or my guess range is, like the current distance is less than the max range, then it should base it on the current distance. That just, yes. That is correct. That just makes sense. That is how it should work. So then we get to these are collision lines and instant place checks. So they should work based on the collision boxes and then the exact pixel line. Or the exact pixel click. So it doesn't matter if I line up their origins or not. I should be able to click on their side and it would still work. Okay, I think I have to experiment a little bit more with how it is and isn't working. That's not what I was expecting. This shouldn't have broke. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these not temporary variables, because that may be the problem. I just need to initialize them. It might have actually been that semicolon, because if snap Y failed, that means that it had snap X. But this isn't a big deal. Oh, son of a bitch. Well, technically, these don't matter. Anyways. So I can just get rid of these. I'm trying to test out something else. Stop giving me new bugs. I'm fine fixing other these bugs another time. I just want to finish the train of thought. I want to answer the current question before getting another one. See, like, I'm not hitting that guy for some reason. Okay, that is a mana issue. So it seems like it's working, maybe? Okay. Maybe it's working just fine. I'm gonna temporarily make this not cost any amount of anything, just to make stuff easier to test. So let's make the mana cost 0, just so that I can test this out. Okay, so the reason why it appears to stop working there is because of what I was saying before, where the thing gets 5 charges, and then you can't give it any more charges. So if there's a target that meets the conditions that already has 5 charges, it won't work. Which kind of makes sense. Ooh, that's a little weird. It looked like there were a few frames there, or a few angles where I wasn't hitting anything when I should have been. Alright, let's get this stuff to kind of group up on me. Okay. Right here, it looks like I'm hitting nothing. No, I was hitting that guy. Okay. It's just drawing the debuff underneath the other one, so it looks like it's not hitting him. Okay. So it seems like it's working. So now, if I mod this ability, so that way it pops up on the 5 charges. Well, yeah, explodes at max charges. That should get rid of that weird circumstance, because when something hits 5, it just blows up instantly. So that should rule out that scenario. And then now there also should be a case when the thing dies, while it has charges, it should still blow up. So here's what I'm going to do. The third hit here with this attack should kill it. So I'm going to give it 5 charges and then hit it. Or 4 charges and then hit it. And then it blows up. Good. Okay, that's how it should work. So effectively, the only circumstance where the ability doesn't quite work the way that it should is it doesn't quite work if there are enemies that meet the range check conditions. You don't have the blow up at max charges mod, and that thing has 5 charges. It'll try to hit the thing with 5 charges, fail. It won't take your stamina, it won't use the move, but you just can't target the thing behind it without precisely clicking. So if your cursor's on top of the thing, you'll always be able to hit it regardless of if it's in front of or behind. It's just if you do this, or do this, and just let it auto-find a target along the path. That's the one circumstance where it fails. And I'm fine with it failing there, because that's whatever. If you get the blows up at 5 charges mod, it fixes it, and then otherwise you just have to play kind of in a smart way, and it's really not that big a deal, because, like, you can just like, for the most part, you'll be targeting the actual thing you want to hit, and so it'll be fine. It won't be a problem. So this ability actually does, in fact, work the way that I want it to. Beautiful. Okay. Nice. The reason why I can hit those is I have double range, and I have it, the, like, targeting finder there, the, like, white crosshairs. I don't, if you have any sort of increased damage modifiers, the targeting doesn't get shifted. That's not a bug with the ability. I literally just haven't implemented it for if you have increased range, and this version of the ability has double range. So I can hit twice as far as that white thing is from me, so I can hit there. That's not a bug with the ability, I just haven't implemented that. So the ability is actually working exactly the way that I intended it to work. Although it looks like if you're too far, it doesn't work. Yeah, this isn't hitting anything. This should be. This should be hitting things. Ooh, are my div X and div Y checks messing this up? If it's to the left of me, I can hit it. You see that? I can't hit it here. I'm not hitting it with the charges. But if I go to the right, I then hit it. That's weird. And so this will hit the far one, but if it's close, well, I can hit through walls. That's not supposed to happen. But if I'm like here-ish, okay, it's hitting that. If I get close, oh, it's just gonna one-shot them. If they're close, though, I won't hit them. I'm not hitting any of these guys. I should be able to hit these guys, but I can't. I shorten it. Yep, I can hit him if I do that. And I bet you if I go high enough, I can hit him. It's definitely the div Y, div X checks. Okay. I don't know what's messed up with that logic. It's these checks. One of these is not doing what it's supposed to do. So that's on the too far for sure. So this is too far. Too far for sure. It's failing whenever the object is to the left of me, which is whenever this is true. Okay. I'm gonna do this just to see. But this shouldn't work either. There should be the exact same thing where it should only work for enemies that are to the right of me. But I want to check to make sure that I am thinking about it correctly, because if it does work, then I don't understand the problem. So if it's to the left of me, I shouldn't be able to hit it. I can hit it now. At range, no problem. And what if it's to the right of me? I can hit it, no problem. Okay, let me mod it to get the increased range to see if for some reason the max range mod messes with it. It literally shouldn't, but I just want to confirm that that did in fact fix it. Okay, so it works to the right. And it works to the left. Huh! Okay. So I don't know why that was an issue, but apparently it was. Yeah, I can't think of why that would be a problem, but apparently it is. Huh. Whatever. If I get curious another time, I will think through this problem and figure out why that fixed it. What that code was, so that was copied code from line of sight stuff that I have on the enemy objects. And the thing is that they need to know whether I'm to the left or to the right, because what it does is it calculates the slope and all this stuff and does these collision lines. The thing is, wherever an object is, with a slope and a collision line, that line can go on either side of the object, right? So it needs to know if it should be checking to the right of the object, so on this line, on this part of the line, or if it should check on this side of the object, up on this line. Basically, it needs to know if it needs to be 180 degree flipped or not flipped. And that should apply to how this ability works as well, but apparently it doesn't. One way to sort of see it, let's see, if I get stuff on both sides, does it target the correct side? It does. So I'm not sure why that works. I'm not sure why that isn't a problem. It seems to me like it should be. But that's fine. It works. I know how it works. I'm sure it's just I'm sure if I thought through exactly how the checks work and how the logic works of it, I would figure out why it applies to the line of sight stuff, but not to the targeting. So these should ignite. Yes, it does in fact ignite, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want. Beautiful. Yeah. So that was basically one full stream of 3 hours to code in one ability. So that's the kind of pacing I'm on right now. But that one ability involved figuring out a targeting system that I can use for other abilities. That's very nice. Yeah, the ignite damage does in fact matter. Yeah. So, I'm kind of fine with that. Alright, it's basically 8 o'clock, which is basically the end of the stream. That's where I should end. So let's sort of look through our stuff. Let's sort of wrap up. Maybe there's a few bug things or whatever that I can quickly knock out. But I'll consider wrapping stuff up now. So we only implemented one new ability, but we did implement a targeting system. So these 48 abilities, this is how much I want for the base alpha build, just to have enough different playstyles. And I've only implemented 16. So there's still 32 abilities left, and this one ability took me 3 hours. So at that pace, it'll be 108 hours before I finish all these abilities. That being said, I suspect stuff just will speed up as I go along. After I finish the abilities, I can work on enemies. I'm going to base a lot of the enemies' moves on the skills that are in the game. So let's say Fireball. I will have an enemy that casts Fireball. So it makes sense to do the enemies after I do the skills. This was the thing that I was talking about earlier. I need to fix the targeting system for that. So that way, if you have like double range or 30% increased range, that the targeting system actually reflect that. And then just content. Like, by content I mean like new areas, quests, NPCs, gear, stuff like that. As well as polish. So we're getting there. There's not a crazy amount left before I can get to my 0.10 alpha build that I'm hyped for. But the skills are going to take me forever. So I may do some work off stream to try to knock out what I can of these, just because this is taking way too long. At this pace, it's going to be months before I finish this, and I don't want that to be the case. I might also rethink the scope of this first alpha. Maybe I don't need 48 abilities, maybe I only need 24, or something like that. I can probably rework stuff to be a little bit smarter and more efficient about it. So we'll see. Because this is taking too long. I actually did that. If we look at the bugs and bullshit notepad, is there anything in here that's worth fixing right now? Not really. We didn't really run into anything new this time. We just implemented the one skill and fixed problems involving the one skill. And a lot of this other stuff is like busy work stuff. Like going through all the sprites and all that crap. Yeah. God, I so hope this error never shows up again. Because if it shows up again, that's going to be a pain. I don't know what causes this. I did this. Okay. Spam messages, what's up? Okay, we're good. Not important. Alright, so yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here for tonight. If I try to do anything else, I think I'll go way over time. And that's a bad habit. So, yeah, I think we'll just do shoutouts to wrap up. So shoutout time then. If you look below in the Twitch description stuff, I've got a couple pieces of important information. On the right side is my schedule, which I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's every weekday, all 5, except for Wednesday. And I stream 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. PDT. Oftentimes I go overtime, but I will just stream for at least those 3 hours, 4 days a week. Weekends, I leave open for random streams with friends. Let's say there's a new game update, or we want to play Factorio, or whatever. I stream that stuff on weekends. I don't stream every weekend, and I only stream when my friends can play. So, not on the schedule, because it's not at all a set time. Because of that, if you want to know if I am going live on the weekends, or if there's any schedule changes or anything like that, you can follow my Twitter, which is in that same description box. I always try to stream at least 30 minutes, or I always try to tweet at least 30 minutes before I go live. So that's a great way to know if and when I am going live, and if there's anything that comes up. On the other side, on the left side of the description stuff, is a link to my Patreon. The point of the Patreon is to fund specifically this project. And the first goal, the first tier of that Patreon that I'm shooting for, is to raise funds to onboard people that have skill sets I do not have that are required for the project. For example, art, music, sound design. These 3 things I have very little skills at, I'm not very good at, and I have very little interest in learning. I would love to get people on board who have skill sets in those fields. I would also like to pay them when I onboard them. So that's the main purpose of the Patreon, is to raise funds for that. If we do meet that first goal, past that, those extra funds will be to pay for more time so that I can spend and other team members can spend more time working on this project. Past that, onboard even more people, get some redundancy, perhaps start multiple projects. Sky's the limit. But the important thing to note is that first tier is really, really important to get people on board to do the stuff that we currently can't do. If you want to support me directly, not necessarily this project, then feel free to subscribe. If you subscribe to me, that supports me for my time. So this is streaming this development stuff, this is streaming random gaming stuff. If I end up doing other projects or whatever, subscribing to me will pay for my time and me personally. Yes, that's it. Beautiful. So let's find somebody to raid, and then we'll wrap this up. I should be streaming tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, so I should be streaming again, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So let's find somebody to raid. Let's see. Frankie's live again. Jitspo is live again. We're always synced up very, very well. They're like always live when I'm not. I'm live still. Thanks, Twitch. Good to know. Pirate Software's doing a pixel art project right now. Yeah, let's raid them. /raid. Ooh. Go Pirate Software. All right. So yeah, thanks everybody again for tuning in. I will be live again tomorrow. Again, 5 to 8 PDT. 5 to 8 p.m. PDT. And yeah, for now, let's go say hi to Go Pirate.